The primary cyber exposures for the construction industry today are probably data security and network security. Now, I know those sound very similar, but there's actually a very important distinction. When we're talking about data security, it's just what it sounds like. It's the protection of data. But it's not just the protection of personal data, because that's what we hear about the most in the news today. We hear about credit card data, we hear about health data, we hear about financial data, all very important, very sensitive stuff. But for the construction industry, that is not the data that they are primarily concerned about. They do have that data. They have employees, they have subcontractors, they may have that data to protect, and certainly that is an exposure for them. But probably the key exposure for the construction industry from a data security standpoint is confidential corporate information. And that would be, for a construction company, plans, security measures, maybe things like access to cameras within the buildings or on the construction site. And the reason that that is particularly important for construction companies is the confidential nature of some of that data. There's a very good example of a situation in Australia where the Australian Secret Intelligence Agency was building a new building. As you can imagine, it was a very secure building. I'm not even sure the location of the building was supposed to be known. And it was reported that what we believe to be hackers out of China gained access to the construction company's systems and were able to access those secret sensitive plans. That access caused delays in the construction. It caused the construction to last longer, and it cost extra money to rework the security measures around that construction to the tune of over $130 million. So this can be very, very costly information if it is exposed or accessed in an improper way. So that's one of the primary exposures, data security. The other is network security. Again, a subtle distinction. Data may be contained on a network, in which case network security and data security may be very similar to each other. But there are exposures assigned to a network that may have nothing to do with confidential information on that network. Primarily, that comes into play when your networks are interacting with other companies' networks, your clients' networks, your customers' networks, the building network that you may be working on as a construction company. A good example of that would be the Target breach, which we're all familiar with. It was one of the largest credit card breaches in the country. The bad guys got into the Target system through the HVAC vendor who was monitoring the HVAC systems remotely. And because their systems were interacting with Target systems, the bad guys were able to get into the HVAC's systems and through there into the Target systems, where they, of course, got access to all that credit card data that we know about today. So that's a network security issue, not necessarily a data security, because if you look at the HVAC company, it's not their data that was affected. They had a network security breach. The data that was accessed was somebody else's data that they were connected to. So that's a network security breach. Also, a network security breach can lead to the company's own disruption. So we just heard a lot in the news about the denial of service attacks. That is a kind of a network security breach. Somebody attacking your system and causing it to be inoperable. And if that happens to your systems, we all of the companies now, including construction companies, rely on those computer systems to do their job, to make sure your workers are in the right place at the right time, to make sure the construction job is going smoothly and on time, to make sure subcontractors are where they need to be at appropriate times. So without those computer systems, if those computer systems get knocked out by a virus or a denial of service attack or some other kind of malware, you can absolutely have a business interruption issue. So you can have an inability to conduct your business and provide your services, which is potentially going to lead to a loss of income, a loss of reputation, all sorts of harm associated with that network security interruption, completely aside from any confidential data that might have been exposed.